really lucky to have four incredibly experienced speakers with us today for the third and final session in our mini-series on transformative leadership. And this is part of the wider ongoing series of Gender Transformation for Business Sense, hosted by the Gender Transformative Research Methodologies Community of Practice. So a big thank you to everyone for joining us today. Let's see what we are here to do. So, as we continue in our journey thinking about transformative leadership, today we're going to really discover together from our speakers and also maybe from you in the room what principles guide transformative leaders in their work to strengthen gender and social inclusion in businesses. We're going to learn how gender transformative practices can improve business performance and how to make the business case for these practices. So something that's often quite important to have to do. And then we're going to consider recommendations for future actions towards strengthening gender and social inclusion in agribusiness context. So I hope that's why you've come here today and we're all going to learn together. So these are our wonderful speakers. I'm going to let Hannah and themselves introduce themselves in a moment, but thank you very much to all of you for giving up your time and your wisdom and experience to us today. We're really appreciative. Just a little recap then, as this has been a mini-series of 3, and we started off asking you in our very first one, what does transformative leadership mean to you? So we have a little bit of sense making around that, around creating meaningful, lasting change, inspiring and empowering others, leading with those values of equity, inclusion and empathy, supporting growth and development, leading with purpose and integrity, and adapting to context and fostering innovation. So we have so much richness already as a foundation of our thinking today, and I'm sure our leaders today are embodying a lot of that already, if not more. And then last time we met, we asked you what values. So we kind of went from just broad, what does transformative leadership mean, to what are the values that these leaders have to embody. And you can see from our word cloud that empathy came out as our top value, along with justice and equity and collaboration. But we also have other values there, like courage and bold, be open, have integrity, kindness, flexibility. So we can see how these values are working together to really strengthen transformative leadership. And what does that mean for us, and how do we enact that in every day? So we have a final question for you to round off this series. And we are going to do that in the form of a chat wave. So I'm going to ask you the question. I want you to type your answer in the chat, but don't press enter until I tell you. So this is the wave. So if you hold off until I tell you, then we get a lovely wave of answers all at once. So share your answers, yep, and then see the wave. So this is the question. So we thought about the kind of principles, we've thought about the values. Now we want to think about actions today. So what actions do you think gender transformative leaders need to prioritize? So I want you to just take a minute to type your answer to that, and our speakers are welcome to do that too. Type your answer to that in the chat. Don't press enter until I tell you, and then in 60 seconds, we'll see the wave that we get from your answers. Okay, hopefully everyone has got something right. So if you want to press enter, let's see what we get for actions that need to be prioritized. Oh, I can see lots coming in. So actions that foster reflection on norms and institutions, make people think and possibly cause a ripple of change, intentional focus, equity, advocating, some more reflecting, inclusion. So we've got a mixture of values and then practices and some redistributing resources. So thinking about shifting norms as well, improved frameworks. Great, these are really amazing. And I'm sure we'll touch on some of those as we go forward in our conversation today. So thank you for sharing those, and we will add those to the 2 previous answers and share that in the community of practice, so we have a lovely kind of body of thinking around transformative leadership.
Mhm.
Okay, before I hand it over, then we've just got one final poll that we're gonna put to you all. I'm gonna launch now. And we want to know then, why does gender transformative leadership matter? So what do you think are some of the key reasons why this matters? So you've got multiple choice. You can select more than one if you need, or all of the above, as some of you already are. We'll just give you a few seconds to think about that. So 50% of people have participated. Just give you 10 more seconds for those of you that want to share your answers. We're nearly at 100%. Okay, I'm going to end the poll now in the interest of time, and let's just see then. And our speakers, or Hannah, you're welcome to share some reflections at this stage. But we have 67% of people think all of the above, all four. Interestingly, no one's clicked on it means businesses perform better alone. But we have a mixture of better policies for men and women, means women are given an opportunity to thrive, and businesses can act as catalysts for broader change. So that's where we're at with our thinking in the room. We'll see if that changes after the rest of the webinar. Just one final thing to share. If you would like to submit any questions at all during the talk, then you can add them to our Easy Retro board. You can scan the QR code on your screen, or you can click on the link that I'm about to put in the chat. You can also share your own reflections, and you'll see there's some resources there. You can also share your own resources. So if there is anything you want to ask our speakers, please do pop it there, or also you can put it in the chat in Zoom. So I am going to, would you like the questions up on the slides, Hannah, or are you, yeah?
I think it's okay. We can, so that we see all the
Yes,
speakers, that would be nice.
exactly.
But we can, of course, also then share the presentation with the questions. But you already saw each of the four speakers briefly, but I'm very excited that we have four excellent panelists today, because we're doing kind of a different format, that this is a virtual panel today. And so I'm going to just very briefly introduce the speakers. I won't be able to cover all of their expertise and all of what they've been doing, but just to briefly give you a picture of who we have on our virtual stage. So first off, we have Dr. Edward Bikketi. He's a senior social scientist and gender equality and social inclusion specialist, has over 20 years of experience and has worked with multiple CGIAR centers, as well as national agriculture research centers such as CalRO in Kenya, AGRA, as well as others. And so we're very excited to have him also share his perspective from this work and working with different agri-SMEs, for example, through the Ukama Ustawi initiative of CGIAR. Second, we have Noura Adelwahab, who is an Egyptian development economist and also internationally recognized gender and social inclusion expert, who has over 3 decades of experience, has been working with different institutions, including also CGIAR, with International Water Management Institute, the World Bank, UNDP, FAO, ILO, and others. We also have with us Perseverance Muzeya. She's the founder and CEO of the Azanael Group. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this is a pioneering company specializing in agro-processing and value addition of farm produce out of Zimbabwe. And we have Judith Marera, who's the founder and CEO of Lanforce Energy, also in Zimbabwe. And this is a women-led for-profit social enterprise focused on the renewable energy sector. and works in really exciting spaces, also supporting young girls and women in moving into this space. So we have such an exciting group of speakers lined up. And so if you could all turn on as much as that's possible with your connection, your camera, so that the audience can see you all. And then for the first question, this is directed at you, Perseverance and Judith. So I would like to ask you, what does gender transformative leadership look like day to day for you? What are you doing in your respective organizations to strengthen gender and social inclusion in your businesses? So maybe over to you first, Perseverance, and then Judith. So welcome to the virtual stage.
All right, thank you so much, Hannah, and good afternoon to everyone. So for us at Azanael, like gender transformative leadership is not like, it doesn't appear in our policy documents. It appears in our ownership structure, our payroll, our supply chain, and our community programs. So every single day we exhibit gender transformative leadership. So for me, I'm the sole founder of a commercially self-sustaining business in Zimbabwe. It's a woman who's building something valuable without waiting for permission or funding. So every day it's an act of gender transformation in Zimbabwe in the agricultural sector. So it doesn't end with the ownership only. It also transcends to the leadership, the management of the company, to our workers, to the farmers we aggregate their farm produce from. And majority of them are women. Like we have a network of more than 15,000 farmers that we aggregate their farm produce. And 70% of them, all of them are women. And we also have community distributors who distribute our processed and packaged products in peri-urban communities. They are also women. And so these are entrepreneurs. We are building entrepreneurs in form of distributors so that they can also be self-sustaining. So for us, our day-to-day means I hire women who are overqualified for the roles that they are stepping into. And it's a deliberate move because overqualification in women is usually underutilization, not unavailability. So the challenge that we have is people think that women are not qualified. There's a lot of misconception about women not being able and women being not available. But we, with our work and everything that we are doing, we've realized that women are able and they can do it. So in everything that we do, the community programs and everything, whatever we do shows that we are a company, and whatever the activities that we do, we are gender transformative. And it's being reflected in how we manage and engage communities and work with people in the community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think this is such an excellent example. And now we're excited to also hear from your perspective, Judith, on what this looks like in your business and practice. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, everyone joining this call this afternoon. And thank you so much, Anna, for having us on this call. So for us, as Lanforce Energy, when we talk of gender transformation, we're just talking about something that we have to prove in our day-to-day activities, the way we live. It has to be embedded within us. It's like our DNA. When we are making decisions or when we want to handle the situation, we start asking ourselves the question like, when you're making this decision, who really is behind the decision? So for the communities that we serve, we work mainly with rural small-scaleholder farmers, And we deliberately want to serve women in this area. Why women? Because we understand that for so long, women have been excluded when it comes to decision making. So we need to hear from the ladies, we need to hear from the women, the youth. What do you think we should do? How best can we address your situation? So for ourselves, we do install biogas digesters and solar home system. For the biogas digesters, it's known in every African rural village that it is the responsibility of women and children to gather firewood for energy. So those are the women that we want to talk to so that they can make the decisions based on what's best for them. And we also go a step further in training those women to become our local agents and our technicians in the areas that we operate. We also have a solar business where we do distribute solar home systems. So you see, some of these women, they actually say to their clients, if you buy from me, I will do the installation. I will do the installation for you. They don't have to wait for their male counterparts to do anything from them. And we also try to embed the youth within the structures. Why the youth? There are so many evils that are happening in the society, and we want those youth to to have something that they can do so that at the end of the day, we empower them. So for us, it's not just about their inclusion, but it's also making sure that when we include the women, they know exactly what they're supposed to be doing. And they are aware of the contextual environment where they're making the decision and what they are also giving back to the society. So this is even in our policies, we even have a gender action plan. And in this gender action plan, we have highlighted that we will also employ young girls because this is a male-dominated field, especially for the biogas sector. It's a very male-dominated field. So we are trying to pull, if you look at my engineers at my organization, they are all women engineers with only one male engineer. The reason why we're trying to do that is we want to encourage the young girls that they grow up, that they can also take up these jobs. And we do career guidance in schools. So we strengthen our gender and social inclusion by embedding accountability in our metrics, even in terms of reporting. We don't just measure financial returns, but we also measure impact. How many women and the youth have been impacted with our projects? So for me, that's what I believe gender transformation is about. It's all about disrupting the old patterns. What we used to know, these jobs were used to be for men, but now we're saying even women can also do it. Women can also come in. So we are not trying to say men are not important, no, but we are just trying to close the gap that has been created historically. So that's how we are addressing gender transformation in our organization.
Amazing. Amazing. Thank you so much, Judith. I think both of you have really incredible experiences as leaders yourselves in making this possible for other women. So now I will turn to Noura. Maybe you can give some insights into what has been your role and our perspectives you've come across to strengthen gender and social inclusion in agribusiness contexts. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thank you, Jessica. It's really a pleasure to be part of this interesting webinar. My work sits a step back from the day-to-day of running a business. I design and advise on the systems that make gender transformative leadership possible in the first place. I want to share my experience leading the gender and social inclusion pillar for a program called Water Energy for Food, the MENA hub, where I led that pillar during the period 2020-2025, working with agribusinesses and climate tech innovators across the region. The starting point was the MENA paradox, where women in the region have near parity in education and health, but among the lowest rates of economic participation and entrepreneurship globally, around 4%. So the barrier isn't the talent, it is the structure and the ecosystem, the inclusive ecosystem. So I worked on translating that diagnosis into 5 practical levers with the innovators and the hub team through embedding gender into funding criteria from day one, not at a later stage, building internal capacity through onboarding, stage reflection, and technical assistance, redesigning business models around social norms, constraints, and connecting women-led SMEs into peer and investment networks, and measuring agency and institutional change, not just headcounts and ticking the box. And like one concrete example was a biotechnology SME that works on black soldier fly larvae that has restructured its value chain to be home-based so rural women could earn income, have access to finance and training, and build their agency. So gender transformative leadership isn't a training module that like gender advisors deliver. It is decisions that are made in governance, financing, and business model design long before anyone talks about inclusion. Thank you, and over to you, Hannah.
I really like your emphasis, Noura, on making sure that it's part of design and really starting to think about it early. So thank you so much. Over to you, Edward. What has been your role, and how have experiences shaped the way you see the role of gender transformative leadership? Thank you.
Okay, first I'll start by saying that gender transformative practices goes beyond adding just women and star in the pot. It changes underlying rules, and it holds collateral, or who holds collateral, and who is consulted in product design, and who gets extension services and market information. So when I was designing the Ukama Ustawi, it's initially I started with the working paper. These were GESI principles that look at how do you just a minute. How do you initially choose people that are excluded, going on to how do you, there were about 6 principles there that we identified, but then later on converted them into core capacities that can be used for GESI capacity assessment and development. So based on that, what I feel is that you're not just being fair when you're expanding your actual talent and customer base. For example, FAO has long estimated that closing the gender gap in agricultural inputs alone could lift yields of women up to 20 to 30%. And that's not a diversity statistic. That's just an efficiency and productivity statistic. So in my own work, like with AGRA, we have led the development of the strategy and the enterprises that built inclusive governance into their own design from day one were the ones that sustained growth after donor funding ended. So we're looking at the sustainability component here to try and work, once we have left the place, how is it going to sustain itself? Yeah? Because the ownership and decision-making structure didn't collapse, and the moment external support did, external support did, it sustained itself. This is how AGRA has gone on to now explore gender transformative practices and improve business performance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. No, I really like your points that it's really about also effectiveness. So really, really excellent points. So now I will return to perseverance. You've touched on this a bit, but really, like, what has been a way in which gender transformative practices have improved your business performance? So kind of what's the case for gender and social inclusion? Sorry, that was the timer for Edward previously, but what is the case for really pursuing gender transformative practice in your business? Thanks.
Okay, so I think maybe let me just make a business case for gender transformation as bluntly as I can, because I think that the conversation too often stays at the level of values, where the evidence for performance is equally compelling and far more persuasive to the people who need persuading. So for us, like I mentioned earlier, we serve more than 15,000 smallholder farmers, and majority of them are women. And our products reach more than 150,000 households. And most of the purchasing decisions are made by women. And our community distributor network they are women. So the customers who constantly return to buy again or who then do some referrals, they are women. So when your leadership reflects your customer base, you understand their needs, right? Their constraints, their decision-making context, and their aspirations with clarity that no market research can substitute for. So I don't need a commission to study and understand what women want, like in the communities that we serve. Because I also grew up in a farming community, right? So I know what these women or what communities need. And just to add on, so like I'm telling you, most of our customers are women. The people who make the decisions are women. And right now, we managed to secure a joint venture with Indian partners. They discovered our business online. So if the customers who are women who are the ones who are fueling our business, it's because of those customers and the decisions that they make every day to say, we are going to buy. We keep sending our produce to Azanael. We were not able to attract a $20 million project joint venture. So for us, including women, being gender transformative and inclusion of women in business, it's not something that should be looked down upon. It's something that should be embedded in everything that you do. So for me, the business case for gender inclusion is not that it's the right thing to do, but it's it is what is good business. So it is what gives you good business. So the enterprises that have not understood this yet are leaving performance on the table while congratulating themselves for their neutrality. Because for us, it's like it is because of the women that we have been working with from the communities that we are where we are today, and we have the goals that we are doing, and we managed to break even in 2023. A small business breaking even without external funding, but through the community of the people that we work with in our supply chain, in everything that we do. So honestly, it's not something that we can debate here, but it's something that's clear. But if you want growth for your business, if you want to expand, if you want to scale, you have to include women in your decision making and in everything that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your energy and also exactly speaking truth here, perseverance. Judith, over to you. What has been the business case in your case for in the renewable energy context? Thanks.
Thank you again, once again, Hannah. So from a social perspective, because we're a social enterprise, we're doing business. Of course, at the end of the day, we want to make some profit, but we have to have that social consciousness behind us. So as a social enterprise, when you talk of gender and social inclusion in leadership, this is something more likely aligned to both moral and strategic decisions that you have to do. Because at the end of the day, we all know that women, the youth, and the marginalized communities have lacked equal opportunities. And the communities that we serve, when you talk of our business, we serve the marginalized communities where for now, looking at the next 3 to 5 years, we know that no grid electricity will go there in terms of grid electricity. And those people, they tend to be forgotten that they are there, they're existing. So what do? We come in, we bring in solutions for these communities so that they also enjoy equal opportunities that their fellow countrymen are also enjoying, but in other communities that are not that marginalized. So it's all about the business sense. You have to make a business sense out of whatever that you're doing. The strategic and the moral one. On the moral one, you're saying these people, they've been excluded for quite a long time. In terms of socially, even financial exclusion, we want to financially include those women. When you financially include those women, we bring our businesses to them. And out of the businesses that we bring to them, or out of the solutions that we bring to them, they are able to make a living and come out with smarter business ideas that they can develop from just one simple solution. So when you talk of gender and social inclusion, we also need to talk of inclusive leadership. And the issue of innovation, the issue of resilience. We understand that even within the organization, we've got different groups of people in terms of age-wise, with the baby boomers, with the millennials, with the Generation Z. So when you talk of inclusion, if you include all these groups, they come in with different ideas. That will also help the business to grow. You're not just focused on what you know as an individual, but you tend to get ideas on different perspectives from different people within the organization. So the communities that we serve are also diverse. And if leadership doesn't reflect that diversity, at the end of the day, we'll miss the mark. So innovation at the end of the day, or inclusion, when you talk of inclusion, it will drive innovation. How does it drive innovation? We tend to see that the ideas that are being brought on the table, they're coming from different angles, the communities that we serve, the people that we employ within the organization. So we believe in empowering women and the youth as our agents. They're the ones who are speaking or are living day to day with the people in their communities. And they are the best people to tell us that, you know what, in this community, this is not quite suitable. Maybe you might need to do this for these people. So I believe that gender and social inclusion brings in resilience, the issue of innovation. So I have to end here for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. So you'll have an opportunity also to give final remarks before we go to the audience. But first, we want to move to Noura. So in your perspective, what is the case for gender transformative leadership? How does it improve business performance?
Yeah, thank you, Hannah, for the question. I believe that we need to look at both sides of the ledger, the demand and the supply side. On the demand side, women entrepreneurs face compounding constraints like limited collateral, asset control, financial illiteracy, mobility, and that is topped with the barrier of gender-based violence in some cases. So these are structural barriers, and they show up directly on the business bottom lines as an untapped labor and unmet demand. On the other side, on the supply side, with the financial institutions, women are treated as a risky, homogeneous group, and credit officers rarely speak the language of women business. Collateral requirements and rejection rates are consistently harsher for women than men. Thus, when institutions closes that gap, tailored loan products are aligned to production cycles, risk-sharing instruments, credit officers are trained on inclusion, they can unlock capital and market share competitors. We have a very good example for the African Development Bank AFAW's model, where $300 million risk-sharing instrument has unlocked $3 billion in credit for women in business, alongside a rating system that scores institutions on the quality of their lending to women. And at the SMEs levels, agribusinesses that build gender transformative practices, not just HR policies, when it is showed in institutional change, like adopting gender-sensitive policies, gender-sensitive procurement policies, work-life balance for their employees, and women in leadership positions and in middle management. That's the leading indicator that performance gains are durable, not a one-off grant condition. So the case for gender transformative leadership isn't just fairness. It's that business and financial institutions who ignore half the market and half the talent pool are structurally underperforming their own potential. Thank you.
Thank you. That was very, very succinct also. So really appreciate that. Over to you, Edward. What have you experienced in this regard?
Okay. First I'll start just unpacking to make the audience a bit understand more what GESI is. Yeah. For me, I look at it like a multifaceted process of transformation that one, it promotes equal and inclusive spaces and access, decision-making, participation, and well-being for the most vulnerable. The second, it transforms systems, gender and social norms, relations to enable the most vulnerable to participate in and benefit equally from development interventions. And third, it builds individual and collective agency, resilience, and action. And lastly, it promotes the empowerment and well-being of the vulnerable and their families and their communities. Now, based on that, the case of GESI in leadership for me, I have been looking at it as both moral and empirical, where I say morally, the leadership that doesn't reflect the people it governs makes worse decisions for them. Yeah? So empirically, for example, McKinsey's most recent diversity research found companies in the top quartile of gender diversity on their executive teams are 39% more likely to financially outperform their peers. So this calls for the inclusion of women, just like my colleagues have been saying here. Yeah. So this is up from 15% a decade ago, and the business case has gotten stronger and not weaker over time. So I'd like to deviate a bit from just women. Young women. Young women face a triple burden. They're youth, they're female, and they're poor. Yeah. So most of this programming that we do it doesn't tend to target them really, because we just come with the phrase that, oh, these are women. Yeah. But I'd like to put an intersect and say, please, let us also look at the young women. Yeah. So in agribusiness specifically, women are often the primary producers and users of natural resources. So the leadership that excludes them in leadership and agency or decision making is mostly blind, and most of them don't operate on reality on the ground. So they don't contextualize it. Yeah. But I'll still insist, it is also time to lift the female youth. Yeah. Because most of the programming that is going now, we just put a blanket characterization that's just women. Yeah. But some of these women are married and at least can access resources. Female youth have a very big problem accessing resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think now both you, Edward, and Noura have also spoken about this role of not homogenizing women and assuming single categories. So I think that's really excellent to use as a reflection. So now you'll all have time. We can use the same order that you've been speaking in. Where I now want to ask you, I mean, you already pointed to some very practical actions, Noura, where that has really had also transformative outcomes. But what are your recommendations? So also starting with you again, Perseverance, what are your key recommendations for future action? Or what can you imagine taking forward in your business? And maybe you can highlight up to 4 words. So really just doing like a lightning round. So yeah, over to you.
All right, it's fine. I think maybe before I give you the 4 words, I just need to highlight that I think when we talk about like deeper performance arguments, that I think we miss them in most gender and business conversations, is that gender transformative enterprises are structurally more resilient. So for us, like I give you example for ourselves, when your supply chain includes women farmers, we have survived current crisis, climate shocks, failed harvests, and gender-based violence. And they still show up. They still show up. So you have built your business on the most resilient economic actors in the agricultural sector. So their resilience becomes your operational resilience. Their networks, they become my distribution network. Their trust and through fair dealing becomes customer loyalty that no marketing budget can buy. So for me, the 4 words that maybe I can talk about in terms of recommendations is proximity, architecture, commerce, and permanence. So with proximity, I mean, we have to be close to where these women are. We need to be close to the people who make things happen and include them. These are the women. So when I talk about architecture, we are talking about giving them the tools to help them, also grow. Like the issue of collateral that is being talked about. We need to give them the architecture, the tools that makes women own factors of production so that they can also have land titles. And then when we talk about commerce, we need to include them in the business dealings so that they also can be economically empowered. So in terms of permanence, when we are talking about maybe programs or opportunities that are presented, like the previous speaker was talking about, I think we need to come up with programs that are self-sustaining. So once the grant ends, we need to come up with programs with continuity that are permanent in those communities, in those structures, so that empowerment doesn't end with a program or a grant cycle. So for me, that's my recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Judith.
Yeah, I'll just be brief here on my recommendations. What I think should happen is when you talk of innovation, we should be able to challenge old norms. When I speak of old norms, I'm mainly referring to the way we used to do things. There should be an element to challenge those old norms and expand access to underserved communities. And these women and the youth, they also need to be empowered so that they lead and they make decisions for themselves. And when it comes to the other recommendation that I would want to bring on as the issue of accountability. When we are measuring our success or our progress, we should make sure that we embed the issue of gender inclusion in our metrics. And above all, let's collaborate with other partners in the same space, maybe in different contexts, maybe someone from another region, and we just collaborate and make sure that we come about with something that is sustainable or that can sustain transformation. So I think these are the 4 recommendations that I can say: the issue of empowerment, collaboration, innovation, and accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. I also love all of your 4 words. This is wonderful. Noura, to you.
Thank you, Hannah. I believe that structural accountability, we need to link grants to milestones on gender transformation, tailored blended finance. We need to design inclusive financial products that are tailored for the needs of women in business. We need to invest in inclusive ecosystems for women. And we need to rethink about indicators for measuring women agency, not just ticking the box, not just the number of women who receive training, but what is the actual impact on the women agency, on their income, on their empowerment. So I believe that these are like the main four things that we discussed today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thanks. Edward.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I think if I had to prioritize, I'd put 4 things in this order. I'll start with the assets. First, fix who controls the assets, the land, the capital, the equipment. Leadership decisions that don't touch who actually holds the title or collateral won't shift much else. So this is one. This is the one that people skip because it is the hardest and most political. It brings a lot of issues, especially when you don't involve masculinity. Second, put the people in a room, especially women, where decisions get made. It's not just like a token seat, but with real voting weight on cooperative boards, procurement committees, budget decisions. Representation without decision power, for me, is just visibility. Third, redesign the systems around the person who is actually excluded. Finance products that don't require a title deed as collateral, extension services timed around care work for women, digital platforms that work on basic phones to counter the digital literacy, and then transformative leaders who audit their own systems for who they are built for and not just who they are now open to. Then lastly, is a measure of the shift in terms of the metrics. Track whether decision-making and power and asset control actually moved, not how many people attended the training. That's the difference between a scorecard and a certificate. Yeah. So for me, it's just for those 4 things: assets, power, systems, and metrics. And lastly, I'd just like to say, GESI and generally gender equality and social inclusion has really suffered in terms of underfunding, beginning with Trump reorganizing and or removing USAID, and a lot of donors followed suit. So there's a lot of underfunding, and it affects sustainability. And something else I've also noticed through the thought leadership that I write on LinkedIn is that it is very hard to come across a project that is just gender or GESI. It is always attached to another program. Yeah. So how about we have standalone GESI projects? And if they're GESI projects, then something else can also come and be attached, but GESI is doing the lead. Thank you.
Very, very true. Big challenges you're pointing out, Edward, and I thought it was really nice that I did hear some overlaps between the 4 keywords all of you mentioned. So, for example, between metrics and accountability, and really recognizing also people's roles, and that being also a reflection of power. So we have 2 questions from the audience as well. We have one from or for Judith. So to you, someone has asked, when all her engineers, so your engineers are women, have you also ever found pushback from men of women moving into the space? And if you have, how did you counteract this, or what have you faced in this regard?
All right. I think thank you for that question. Yes, of course. You will face that challenge from men when you go out there in the communities. when people see a woman speaking, they tend to turn a blind eye or just ignore. But what we have done is whenever we are speaking or whenever we are addressing, whether it's a workshop or it's a conference, we try to make sure that they realize our presence. We are not just there to sit and see men take decisions when we're there. We also we try, and that has helped us in many situations because when we prove to them that the things that we are talking about, we can also do it. Or from the angle of women, this is what we're supposed to be doing. So we've gained some sort of respect in the industry because we don't just sit back and fold our hands and let them be like they're bullying us in such a way. So this is what we've done, and we've seen that after those incidences, we've seen quite a number of other women also taking up positions in these fields in different angles. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's really inspiring, and it's really, I think that will have some ripple effects. And you've already mentioned even, how inspiring young girls to even pursue careers in the energy sector is something that can really change the future of Zimbabwe and maybe other countries in the region. So really exciting. A second question is to you, Noura. So you mentioned that gender transformative leadership is not something really teachable in a module. But what are successful ways that you have or that you've experienced building this into the design of initiatives as you suggest? So what has really moved the needle on making sure that that's thought about early enough?
Thank you so much, Hannah, and thanks for the question. I'll just give an illustrative example how we translated this in the Water Energy for Food MENA hub. We start with giving the Gender Up training, which is like a methodological conversation with the innovators on why we're talking about gender inclusion, who are the vulnerable categories in the surrounding environments, how to design mitigation measures to take this into consideration when they scale up their innovation, including, for example, initiatives for women in the vulnerable women in the surrounding communities, work-life balance arrangements for women within the company if it is big enough. And then we take this forward into after the training. This is delivered in 4 modules, 4 mini modules. And then one-to-one, we call it gender clinics with the SME or the innovator to discuss some issues that has been raised during the training and how to take this forward in a specialized technical assistance. So part of the technical assistance, as I've mentioned, was translated like the biotechnology SME, where we have designed a business model that is catered to meet the needs of rural women, to enable them to work from home, to get over mobility constraints, and also to have sustainable income for them. And another part was for an innovator that was working on processing the shrimp peels into biopesticides and biofertilizers. So women in the surrounding community were peeling these shrimps, and so how to provide some sort of support to these women through a secondary income generating activity that can help them to sustain over this seasonal product. I hope that this answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you so much. I thought that's really interesting, and I absolutely agree with also the intention to integrate this much earlier in the design of programs. So I think that's a really excellent point. And I put a link in the chat for the Gender Up method. There's now a new self-guided handbook that is just recently available so everyone can take a look. So I really want to thank all of our excellent speakers. So really to you, Perseverance, Judith, Noura and Edward, we really appreciate having you on our virtual stage today. I think all of your points were really excellent, helped me reflect even further on gender transformative change within businesses, and also I hope for the audience. Please stay connected. So maybe Jessica, you could reshare the presentation where we can just give a few updates on what's coming. And also we do invite you, Jessica has just posted in the chat to explore further resources on the Gender Hub. This is from the Gender Accelerator of the CGIAR. And also you're very welcome to join the Gender Transformative Research Methodologies Community of Practice that the link shared. So to close, we can just ask you in the chat to share what are the most important lessons or insights that the presenters have shared with you, or what do you take away from today's webinar. So please feel free to post those in the chat. And then in the final minutes, after you've done this, we can just give you a heads up about, the upcoming webinars. Yeah, perfect. There's also another link in the chat on this series. So as Jessica had mentioned, this is the third and last of our mini series on transformative leadership. So we had all of these 4 speakers with us today, but it's part of a broader series. So we started in May, and this will continue running up to November. And the link that you joined today will stay the same across the full series. So please stay tuned. And then the next one is on September 8th, where we've already heard some relevant insights from all of our speakers, but we'll be diving even more deeply into what it means to translate gender research into business metrics. So what does it really mean to measure change in terms of gender and social inclusion, and in particular transformative change. So please join us on September 8th. We are also continuing from a series we conducted last year. This was titled Gender Lens for Business Sense. So we moved from Gender Lens for Business Sense to Gender Transformation for Business Sense. So in this year's series, we're focusing much more on the transformative dimension. So how do we see it also as this continuum of course, reaching, but also benefiting, empowering, and transforming. And you can check out this series at the link also that Jessica shared. So you can watch the recordings if you're interested and stay engaged. This one will also be shared on the website. So for all of your colleagues and friends who may not have been able to make it, you can also tell them they're able to see it online. So thank you for all the support that we're also seeing in the chat from participants. I also kept seeing really nice contributions. So thanks again to all of our speakers, to the participants, and to you, Jessica, for supporting in moderation and facilitation. And see you next time.
Thanks, Hannah. Thanks everyone for joining.